What's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and I have a few updates for y'all today. It's sort of like a Rico report because, a lot of these things really have nothing to do with one another. So we're going to dive into how the Washington Commanders have another joint practice scheduled. Very excited about that. We're going to break down why that's so monumental. And now we're up to 2 total joint practices. That's big time. Also, the Washington Commanders have now officially hired a new director of pro scouting, another steal from another franchise. Also, we have the Bill Walsh Fellowship. That is really cool. I'm going to break down what that is and how Kendrick Golston is now helping the Commanders and is a part of the Commanders for a temporary amount of time, very short amount of time, but still Kendrick Golston is back in some sort of capacity. But before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Make sure you go check out my 91-man roster breakdown where I'm showing y'all every player on the team by position group and things like that, breaking that all the way down. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you go check that out. That's the video I put out earlier today / last night. Also, make sure you stay tuned for all of the rookie film sessions I'm working on, a lot of really fun ideas I'm working on as well. And also make sure you follow all of the social medias, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok, all of that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the fact that the Washington Commanders have yet another joint practice scheduled. The Jets head coach Robert Saleh said that the Jets will do joint practices with the Commanders and the Panthers. Commanders will be in New York, of course, for that joint practice. It just only makes sense for the joint practices to take place in the same city that the preseason game is going to take place in. So the upcoming joint practice that we have against the Jets with the Jets will take place in New York because we play the Jets in New York for that preseason game. And so just to give you the extra information as well, they'll also have a one-day practice with the Giants, which makes sense. They both play in the same stadium. They both do pretty much everything in New Jersey. They aren't even really based in New York. So that makes a lot of sense, of course. But Commanders wise, now that we know that we have a joint practice with the Jets coming sometime in August, because we played them on August 10th again in New Jersey. So more than likely, John Comm is saying that that joint session with the Jets could likely happen August 8th. Again, we know that there will be a joint practice. We just don't know the exact date, but it has to be sometime before August 10th because we played them August 10th in New Jersey. And I'm pretty sure it would be at least like a day before, like a day in between for them to rest. So I'm assuming that it will probably be August 8th as well, like John Comm said. And then, of course, we also already have a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins. And then that joint practice will be held on August 15th. And we have the game on the 17th. So, and then, of course, that's going to happen in Miami as well because we play the Miami Dolphins in Miami for that second preseason game, just like we play the Jets in New Jersey for the first preseason game. And again, that joint practice with the Dolphins is 2 days before the preseason matchup that we have with them. So again, assuming that since we play the Jets on August 10th, that practice more than likely makes sense to land on the 8th, but we'll see. Who knows? And it sounds like they may not be multiple day practices, joint practices like we did with the Ravens, where it was like a 2-3 day multi-day thing. That was actually really cool. I highly doubt that the Jets and the one that we do with the Dolphins will be anything like that, but I'm still excited to have 2 good teams as our joint practice matchups. And like I've already talked about and explained in other videos, y'all know I love the fact that we are not only having 2 joint practices, just period. Like, that's already amazing. That's great. But we're also having 2 joint practices against 2 great teams, and they will be great measuring sticks for us because the Patriots are going to be really bad this season. I'm sorry to break it to you if for some reason you didn't already know that. And we'll more than likely end up with another top 3 pick type of bad. Like they were the 3rd pick last year. They'll probably end up with like the 2nd or 1st pick going into the next draft. They're going to be bad. So if we beat them up in a joint practice, what valuable information can we even really take from it? You see what I'm saying? But if we beat up on the Jets or the Dolphins while they are healthy, especially, then maybe we can start to grow some real optimism in this fan base. Because, I mean, of course, it wouldn't make us the favorites to beat the Buccaneers going into Tampa Bay week 1 of the regular season by the odds people, just seeing us beat up on the Jets in preseason and the joint practices, beating up on the Dolphins in the joint practices in preseason. That's not going to be enough to really change the betting odds, I believe. But at the very least, our team and our fan base can go into that regular season game against the Buccaneers with belief and confidence that we can go and get that dub. If we show out against them, again, I don't think it changes the betting lines, but I definitely think it changes the mentality that our team and our fan base have going into the regular season. And also, even like worst case scenario, if we don't beat up on the Jets and the Dolphins and we look like the lesser team when we match up against those teams in joint practices, at the very least, I still love the competition. Like, your DBs having to cover those 2 receiving cores between those 2 teams, our offensive line having to block against those defensive lines from those 2 teams, our defense as a whole having to go up against those high-powered offenses and great quarterback play, especially, again, when everybody's healthy. Jaden Daniels having to go up against those talented and well-established veteran-led defenses as well. So even if we don't look great in those joint practices, at the very least, we're getting better by going into those practices and having those joint practices with those teams. So I'm excited. And Dan Quinn, our head coach now, originally did not care about joint practices that much. But Dan Quinn said that his views on joint practices have changed, and he now sees a real value in holding them before preseason games. He was planning on working out the details for joint practices after the schedule came out. And it's actually interesting, too, because all of these joint practice announcements have come from the other team. Like, Mike McDaniels announced the joint practice with us on his end by announcing all of the joint practices that the Dolphins will have, and then Robert Saleh just did the same thing for the Jets, announcing all of the practices that they're going to have with other teams. The Commanders have yet to just come out and be like, we're going to have this joint practice with this team and this team and this team. But Dan Quinn did in his press conference after Mike McDaniels announced the joint practice that we had with them. He did come out and confirm on his end that we would, but it's just interesting that we're finding out our joint practice schedule basically from other teams. I mean, not anything wrong with it or anything like that, but it's just really interesting and random. But I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn now cares, and this change is more than likely part of like the many changes he's made to his head coaching style and the priorities that he has from, remember back, that everybody that was speaking on and hyping up Dan Quinn, especially on like the player and coaching side of things, said that Dan Quinn literally called everybody he could to ask them what he could have done better as a head coach for the Falcons. He asked for any and all criticism, even if it's harsh, so that he could be ready to do everything the right way in his next opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. And it sounds like this is probably one of the many changes in ways that he's more open-minded now. Like, okay, this didn't work with the Falcons. Where did we go wrong? What exactly could I have done better? And it seems like taking advantage of joint practices is one of the ways that Dan Quinn wants to improve his job of being like an actual head coach in the NFL. Now, moving on, the Washington Commanders are also getting a new director of pro scouting from the Chicago Bears, another stolen front office guy that I'm very excited about. It is Chris White. Shouts out to Neil Stratton at Inside the League. He's been the guy that's been up on this like immediately. It's crazy. I don't know how he's doing it, but Chris White, the Bears assistant director of pro scouting since 2022, has disappeared from the team's website. We've heard he's headed to the Commanders, where he'll be the director of pro scouting, which is obviously an upgrade, a promotion. So big shouts out to him. Big congratulations to him. He must have done something really good for the Bears. So for like Adam Peters and those guys to feel like, hey man, you shouldn't be an assistant director of pro scouting over there. You need to come over here and be the straight up director of pro scouting. White also interned with the Lions in 2013 and played offensive lineman at FAU, just to give you that update. He's been the assistant director of pro scouting for the Bears for the last 3 years, and he was with Chicago for the last 10 years just in total. And also shouts out to Resh Manuel, because you already know he's coming with some random background did you know information. First of all, he spent several years with the Bears front office exec Champ Kelly, who was in Denver with Adam Peters. That's one connection. Also, first NFL job under GM Phil Emery, who was in Atlanta with Dan Quinn. Second connection. Summer internship with Martin Mayhew and Lance Newmark. Third, and then also a bonus, he played college football with Alfred Morris. So random. I don't know how Resh Manuel keeps track of all of this, but shouts out to him, man. I'm going to always give y'all those when he gives us those. But again, it's hard with scouts to like really define how great they are, like who exactly they drafted and things like that, who are they responsible for bringing to the organization that they were working for and things like that. So it's really hard to judge like how excited we should be about the hiring of Chris White of our director of pro scouting. My whole thing is, number one, the fact that this organization is giving him a promotion. Whatever he did with the Bears, the Commanders obviously looked at it and was like, yeah, you need to come over here and do that same thing, but if anything, we'll give you a promotion to do that. So he must have done something to deserve that. And then secondly, when in doubt, believe in Adam Peters and Josh Harris. With the way that they built this front office, this scouting staff, this coaching staff, even just this roster within just less than a year of taking over. I mean, literally like a half of a season of taking over. You at a certain point, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt that these guys are really good at what they do and the reason that we're bringing them over. I mean, Brandon Sosner, come on, man. That guy is a different type of hire. I mean, he's such a great hire. I'm afraid of the fact that he's going to be like one of the best GMs in the NFL. Sooner rather than later, he'll probably end up leaving us to go get his own thing going with another team, and then that's going to be one of the scariest franchises in the NFL as well. And we have him here in a smaller role than GM because Adam Peters is our GM right now. He's like mostly our contract guy, but he's going to be in charge of the player personnel decisions, a lot of things. So just to basically expand on the fact that our coaching staff, our front office, everything looks to be elite on paper. We got to see how it works out, whether there's synergy there, if there's chemistry, if there's like checks and balances. It seems to be that way so far, but we got to see what it looks like on the field for us. But behind the scenes and leading up to the actual regular season, I feel like you couldn't have done a better job. So again, with the job that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris are doing with these hires all up and down the entire franchise, not just the coaching staff, but the entire franchise, and more specifically the scouting department with some of the guys that we brought in these past few weeks, you just got to assume that this is just another great one. And I mean, the Bears have done a pretty decent job of like bringing in some good players through the draft and things like that. Maybe not like the best of jobs, but they've done a pretty good job. And if Chris White had anything to do with that, then that means that he's pretty good at his job as well. Which brings up the point that, just in case if y'all are not up to date, I want to do like just a quick breakdown of who everybody is in this front office right now, the scouting staff, the player personnel side of things, football operations, all of that type of stuff. So of course your managing partner is Josh Harris, even though he doesn't like own the majority of the team, not the entire team. He owns like the largest percentage, but that's enough. He's pretty much running the team right now. That's your managing partner. He's the one making a lot of the decisions. Everybody else is mostly just putting money into everything and helping where they can, but this is like Josh Harris's team basically, even though he doesn't own as much of a percentage as most NFL owners out there do for their respective teams. Then you have the executive management and football operations side. You have Adam Peters as your general manager. Even though Lance Newmark is your assistant general manager, Brandon Sosner, who I was just talking about a couple of minutes ago, is your senior vice president of football operations. He's right below Adam Peters in the pecking order, in the chain of command. Again, you typically don't see somebody above the assistant general manager, in between the assistant GM and the actual GM, but Brandon Sosner is just that much of a... You got to remember, this guy's 31 years old. He's being given credit for being the guy that got Lincoln Riley to come to USC, to bring back a lot of the fans at USC. He'll probably be asked to do a lot of that for the Commanders, to bring back the fan base and get them engaged and excited about potentially winning and things like that. He's like the contract finesse guy for the Lions the past couple of years. I mean, getting people contracts to where they're getting paid a lot of money, but at the same time, they're not eating up a lot of cap space. And he walked away giving the Lions a few parting gifts on the way out, here's this great Jared Goff contract, here's this Amon-Ra St. Brown contract, there you go. Now I'm gonna go do the same thing for the command. I mean, this guy has his hand in everything. He's supposed to, again, Adam Peters said that he's gonna be in charge of some player personnel decisions as well, and I'm just super excited. So when it comes to draft, free agency, this guy's gonna have his hand in everything, and I think he's going to ascend so quickly. He's literally the Sean McVay of the front office, and so I think it's only a matter of time before he leaves to go get his own general manager gig somewhere else, because he's literally just that much of a genius. But we need to hold on to him as long as we can and get everything out of him that we can before he leaves. I'm not gonna lie. And so then again, you have Adam Peters, GM, Brandon Sosna, Senior Vice President of Football Operations, then Lance Newmark, Assistant General Manager. Then you have Martin Mayhew, your Senior Personnel Executive Advisor to the GM. And with how great of a draft we had, as great of a free agency as we had, I'm assuming that Martin Mayhew is not bringing the front office down. Maybe everything that happened these past few years with the Rivera era was not his fault, and maybe in his limited role right now, where he's just kind of like an advisor, he's only bringing good input. And at the end of the day, Adam Peters is going to make the decisions that he wants to. And then you also, the fact that you have Brandon Sosna and Lance Newmark out there as well, Martin Mayhew can only do but so much damage to the organization. And again, based off of what I've seen so far this offseason, maybe he's even helping a little bit. Who knows? Then you have Rob Rogers as the Senior Vice President of Football Administration. And then my boy Eugene Shin as the Senior Vice President of Football Strategy. He's running the whole analytics department. Josh Harris has let it be known that he wants to be a very analytics-based organization, franchise, top to bottom, from the front office side, the business side, to the football side, all of those things. And Eugene Shin is a big part of that. Then, of course, Jason Wright is your team president as far as the executive management and business operations side goes. And then there's a whole bunch of people under him, including Doug Williams, but we're not even going to sit here and dive into that part. I'm more so focused on the football side of things. And then when you also continue on the player personnel side, you have David Blackburn as your director of player personnel, who we just hired a couple of weeks ago. You have Tim Grimble as your director of college personnel, who we just hired a few weeks ago. And then Marty Herney is still sticking around, and his only title is really just advisor. That's literally it. That's all it says up there on the team website. So he's just kind of sticking around as like somewhat of an advisor, helping around where he can and things like that. And then on the player wellness and athlete performance, the only reason I'm including this is because I'm very high on our guy, Tim McGrath. I've already done a full breakdown, over 30 minutes, just talking about him and what he's done around the world, different continents, different sports franchises, different sports leagues and things like that, as far as health wellness and athlete recovery and rehabilitation and things go like that. He's our senior director of player health and performance. He was originally hired here as like a health and wellness consultant for like a few months, like sometime late last season or something like that. And then based off of what he did in that short span, they went ahead and promoted him to like the lead guy for everything health, wellness, and recovery and things like that. Al Bellamy is our head athletic trainer still, but Tim McGrath is above him on the chain of command as far as that goes. And then you also have a lot of people under them as well. And then it's crazy because Dave Gardy, who was probably one of my favorite, at least top 5 hires that we've made since Josh Harris has bought the team, he hasn't even been added to the team website yet, but he's the vice president of football initiatives. And remember, that's the guy that went from working with Roger Goodell, being one of like his right-hand mans up there at the NFL league office. I know I keep saying it over and over again, but most of these people working for all of these different 32 NFL franchises, no matter what role that they hold, most of these people, their ultimate goal is to work for the NFL league office. There's just a different level of longevity there. That's really like the top goal. Yeah, I'm a GM here, but ultimately I want to become a certain guy right with Roger Goodell to where I'm working for the entire NFL. Dave Gardy left that role that he had for double-digit years to come be a part of the Commanders and what we're building here. So that tells you everything you need to know about not only his credentials, but also how great of a something that we're building here for a guy like that to want to be a part of it, to leave his great opportunity that most people are fighting for to come help us win. And he is going to be a part of like front office things, decisions as far as player personnel, and even like some in-game things, because he's like the lead rule guy. Like he knows the NFL rules and help write them, help and make sure that they made sense, that they were logical and all of that type of stuff. He was like that guy for the NFL. Now he's coming here to help us with that as well. So I mean the hires we made are crazy. And of course, the guy that we just talked about a few minutes ago, the reason how we even got to this subject is Chris White. with him being so new, he hasn't been added to the list either as well. Also, speaking of the Commanders website, one guy was recently removed when he left the Commanders 8 days ago. I feel like this is a good time to bring this up. Changes continue in the Washington Commanders front office as Connor Barringer, a pro scout the last 3 years, has updated his LinkedIn to show that his tenure there is over with the Washington Commanders. Barringer, who played at UNC, and he joined the team back in May of 2019, and he's also worked with Pro Football Focus for a little while as well. So I just wanted to give y'all those updates. Chris White in, Connor Barringer out. And then also just like a quick breakdown and run back on who we have in our front office and scouting staff, player wellness, all of those type of things, just real quick. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, the Washington Commanders announced the 2024 Bill Walsh NFL Diversity Coaching Fellowships for this off-season program. I'm really excited about this, man. Today, the Washington Commanders announced the 2024 Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellows for the off-season. Anthony Davis, Kendrick Golston, Arthur Ray, Anthony Johnson, and Andrew Samalo. This year, Washington will bring in 2 groups of fellows, with the first group participating in the final portion of OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and then the second group of fellows participating in training camp. The second group of fellows will be announced at a later date. But Anthony Davis will work with the defensive backs and is currently an assistant recruiting coordinator, an offensive analyst, and tight ends coach at Alabama State University. Then you have Kendrick Golston. We all know him. Will work with the defensive line and is currently the head coach at Stonebridge High School. Golston played for the Washington Commanders for 11 seasons from 2006 to 2016. He was drafted by Washington in the 6th round, 196th overall in the 2006 draft. So, I mean, there you go right there. He was also an assistant coach at Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C. for a while. And while at Gonzaga, he contributed to a staff that oversaw a program ranked in the top 25 in the country. And, I mean, this guy has a lot of credentials, so this is his pathway to potentially working in the NFL. Hoping the Commanders give him a real shot even outside of this program. Then you also have Arthur Ray, who will be assigned to the offensive line and is currently the offensive line coach at Howard University. Let's go. Yes, sir. Prior to his role at Howard, he held the position of offensive line analyst and quality control at the University of Arkansas from 2021 to 2022. Then you also have Anthony Johnson. He will assist with the running backs and is currently the running backs coach and academic coordinator at Lafayette College. And then Andrew Samalo will work with the special teams and is currently the outside linebackers coach and recruiting coordinator at Lafayette College as well. And just to let you know what this whole program is, it was established in 1987. The Bill Walsh NFL Diversity Coaching Fellowship provides NFL coaching experience to a diverse group of participants every year. The program is named after the man who conceived the idea, the late Pro Football Hall of Fame head coach Bill Walsh, and exposes talented minority college coaches, high school coaches, and former players to the methods and philosophies of NFL coaching staffs. Walsh introduced the concept to the league in 1987 when he brought a group of minority coaches into San Francisco's 49ers training camp. So shouts out to Bill Walsh for this initiative. Shouts out to the Commanders for taking part of it, because I'm not even sure if every team in the NFL is doing this. And then not only are we doing it, but we're doing it twice. I believe this whole list of guys that I just gave you are just a portion of OTAs and mandatory minicamp guys. We still don't even know who the second group of guys will be when we do this in training camp. So shouts out to the Commanders for giving so many of these guys opportunities. We have guys coming from HBCUs and all of those type of things. So I love this initiative. Shouts out to the Commanders. It's probably my favorite thing that we've talked about this entire video. Y'all know I love something like this, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. How do you feel about the Commanders having 2 joint practices and the teams that we're having joint practices with? Let me know how you feel about all of that. Are you excited about it? Also, how do you feel about the new director of pro scouting that the Washington Commanders just hired? How do you feel about this entire front office, just from the player personnel side, the scouting side, all of that type of stuff? Let me know how you feel about just how this whole overall umbrella of front office guys look right now, because I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic. I feel like we're setting ourselves up to be like Super Bowl contenders, or at the very least long-term winners. And I really want to emphasize long-term. When you're doing things right from top to bottom, from the front office and the coaching staff, on top of what you're doing with the players, the guys that actually hit the field, that's how you build yourself up for long-term success. I'm really excited. Also, let me know how you feel about the Bill Walsh Fellowship, of course. Are you all as excited as I am for things like this to go down, and that the fact that the the Commanders are even taking this initiative to bring in this many people to do this. Shouts out to them. Of course, do not leave this video without leaving a like. I really appreciate y'all, and make sure y'all stay tuned because I'm working on so much content for y'all. I can't wait. I'm super excited, and make sure that you stay tuned. I do want to do a live stream sometime soon, so just be on the lookout. I will eventually announce a live stream for y'all to call in and voice your opinions on a lot of things, especially like what we did in the draft, how you feel about the future of this franchise, what we look like in practice so far, how do y'all feel about Jaden Daniels compared to like Caleb Williams and Drake May, JJ McCarthy, all of these other quarterbacks. Right now, Jaden Daniels has the highest reviews from their respective teams, but then again, this is from the viewpoint of the team, so who knows what to really believe in. But just be on the lookout for a call-in live show because I can't wait to also get my opinions out there as well in that live show. I know a lot of people have been asking for one, so stay tuned for a live stream is on the way. And again, do not leave this video without leaving a like. Stay tuned for all of the content. I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. So I appreciate y'all being patient with me. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.